Hello again, welcome back to Asgard, and welcome back to Enigmatica 2 Expert. So today we're going to be picking back up with our speed build, our big project, and we've got quite a bit of work to do. I mean, once again, we're not going to finish the entire build, but we're going to get the majority of the shell pretty much done, or actually all the shell done, and then we can kind of continue working on that bit by bit as we move forward, because there's a lot of blocks that we need at this point where I'm at right now, because I've already finished the speed build, but there's a lot of blocks that we need that we're going to have to work up to. We also need to start smelting down some ender pearls, which we'll talk a little bit about that. I think ender pearls is what I want. I'm pretty sure. I think that's the color that I want and everything. So we got a bit of that to get smelted down and stuff like that. But we'll at least get the shell done today, which is kind of the most important part. And then we can just kind of start working on finishing out the rest of that as we go, sort of a thing, because it's a big build. There's a lot that goes into it, but we have to continue working on magic and stuff to fill it all out. So with that said, without further ado, let's go ahead and get into the speed build. We'll get a bit of this knocked out today. We got about 20 minutes of speed build footage, I think it is, for today's episode, and then I'll catch back up with you guys at the end and we'll finish out. So without further ado, let's go ahead and hop into it. Okay, so of course we're picking back up where we left off with the speed build. We're going to start by just framing in this top here, and we're going to add another roof layer. This is actually going to be a double roof, and then we're going to have a more smooth part, which we'll get into here in a little bit, sort of smooth straight up. We still have a bit to add to that even after this speed build. So you can see right here, I'm starting to build out the roof. I will say that this speed build, it's actually not quite 20 minutes of footage. I think it's like 16 and a half minutes, in fact. Thought it was 20 minutes. It was actually more recording time spent than in the last speed build, but I did speed it up a bit more because I felt like that the section where I was building the roof and stuff like that, it took a little bit longer than what was really comfortable, I guess. So I did speed this one up a bit more and tried to make the most of that. I think it was, I can't remember the exact speed, but yeah, anyways. So right now we're pretty much just adding the roof onto it. Now I will say at the time of recording this speed build, it seems like my internet is better. I've actually started getting to play on a server with everybody. Of course I'm recording this. Well, the speed build part's been done for about 4 days now, but basically I've just been working through other stuff and getting lots of recording and stuff like that done, so I just got time to sit down and edit and render and do all that stuff kind of in bulk. So, but we are starting, by the time this has come out, we will have already had an episode or two of Project Ozone 3 Coppa Mode coming out, so just a heads up on that. I am playing that on the Patron server, which so far has been a lot of fun. But anyways, you can see right here, we're pretty much just building out this roof in sort of the same fashion as the roof below it. Now, don't forget that there will be a world download coming out before too long. It will be coming out before too long, so try to get as much of this building done as we can before the world download, because right now it's kind of a big empty shell, but we're steadily adding things into it. So there is that. So anyways, coming down, I'm just kind of smoothing out these roof layers, because of course they need wedges that go in there just to kind of smooth out the whole shape of it. So I'm adding those in. We still have to, one thing I do have to do is figure out how I want to smooth out the kind of the overhangs there, the points of the roof there, because I haven't quite figured out exactly what I want to do. There's a couple things we could do, or we could leave it like it is. It's not terrible, but I think with a little bit of architecture craft we could spruce it up. Now what I'm doing right now, this is actually one of the parts of the build that really add a lot to this build, I think, and that is I'm adding in the pillars. So these pillars, they really kind of bring this build together, so it's not these floating roof bits that are kind of overhanging. It actually makes the building take on like a whole new shape which I do quite enjoy. And these pillars, of course, are being made with architecture craft. Now, right now, I don't add the center column part. I just add the tops and the bottoms. We will come back through before the end of this and add in the column bits. Now, I am kind of keeping with the general color scheme of this building. It's a lot of dark brown, black, dark gray, and then we've kind of got a bit of green added into it. And that's going to be true throughout the entire build, even on the interior. Except for maybe the bottom. I haven't decided for sure, but I think I'm going to use living rock down at on the bottom layer, but I'm not for sure. I've got to play around with that idea and see if I like it or not. So, anyways, heading on inside, I went ahead and got kind of a center point. Even though I do have a journey map marker that tells me where the center is, I did kind of go ahead and move that blood magic altar up, which I ended up moving it back down here shortly, but that's okay. So right here, we're just going to kind of add a shape here in the center. Now, I will say this floor does not get really finished out because it's one of the blocks that we need from... I believe we're going to need to do some forestry, tree braiding before we can finish out this. Or go to space, one or the other. Because I want green heart wood to finish this out. But we're going to kind of shape this out. Kind of a neat little design, I think. Something a little bit different. And it actually looks really cool from the sky. And even once this is finished out, you can still kind of see it. It's kind of a layered building once everything's done on the map, which we'll take a look at that at the end. But this area that I'm, well, actually now I've dropped down a layer. The area that I'm digging out right now is going to be kind of Thaumcraft. And by Thaumcraft, I don't mean just Thaumcraft because, of course, we're doing a lot of our tech as magic. So, of course, there's going to be tech showing up in some of these areas. But we're kind of working on the what will be kind of a Thaumcraft area, among other things. And then this area up here that I've made that shape in, you can see right now I am building out where our blood altar is going to go. And what I'm using to do that is not the Sanguine Scientium, it's the Inspectorus Scandalum is what I'm using. If you've been around the channel, you know I love the Inspectorus Scandalum for just kind of plotting out where our blood altar is going to be. Just go ahead and get that figured out early on. And then what we're doing here is we are adding in a bit of a top to, sort of a top to this building. It does kind of come up to this like almost flat glass roof that kind of goes over it. Which is what we're working on at the moment, but there is some parts that are raised up, and we're going to talk a little bit more about those at the end of the episode. But I kind of decided that there was a couple styles I was thinking about going with this, and I thought about originally I was going to make it even taller than what I ended up making it, but I like the idea of just having a glass roof on this, and then having some stuff up top that we can make use of. And actually up top, the very center, which the center does get raised here in a little bit, but I'm thinking once we get to it, of course it's going to be a while, but once we get to it, we can put our draconic energy orb up there, because that's always a great way to top any kind of like magical looking building or structure or tower is a draconic energy orb, right? Because they go perfect up at the top. And then we can do some work with some styles up there kind of around the orb itself. So... And then right now I'm building out these kind of like these pillar things that stick up, and what these are actually going to be long term, which we'll talk a little bit more about that. But we're actually going to be putting immersive engineering lightning rods at the top of each of these pillars. That's why they're a 3x3, because that's, you know, kind of what fits the lightning rod. And so we're going to have lightning rods that kind of stick up off each of these pillars. So we're going to have 8 of them up top of this, which is going to generate some energy, which is great, you know, during thunderstorms. But the more important aspect of it is it's going to look really, really cool when lightning is striking the top of this building constantly during thunderstorms. And then what we're going to do is we're going to start adding the glass to the top of this and getting that all kind of smoothed out and whatnot. And we're going to be going with the green glass again because, you know, naturally, it's the color that really kind of matches our overall base design or build design. And a lot of our base actually coming up. I kind of want that eldritch kind of green look to a lot of the base. So we'll be seeing more of that. And then we're going to add kind of this center bit. And I didn't want it to go all the way up, so I'm actually going to cut that back down a little bit. Yeah, so that's where I'm kind of thinking long term we'll have maybe a draconic energy orb floating up above that. But we'll see. We shall see. So anyways, our next order of business is just kind of flattening out this like walkway that kind of goes around the center circle there, kind of smoothing all this out. And there will be some adjustment to this. And right now we're adding kind of a border. In this case, we are using Cathedral's basalt railing that goes around this because, you know, we've used that on the chapel, on the storage building. And overall, it just really fits our build look that we're going for with the base build overall. And then we're adding that railing around the lower sections as well. I will say this build has been just massive. And we've actually got a lot of it knocked out in like 2 speed builds. It's crazy. I mean, because you're talking about probably between both episodes close to an hour of speed building, not including resource gathering and stuff like that, which of course has been a big part of it. And then, yeah, and to really just have the shell done at this point, and then have to go in deeper as we kind of fulfill different parts of mods and things like that. So, but this building I think is gonna be really cool once it's all kind of finished out and everything. So, at this point, I actually moved in. This is a little bit tighter of an area to work in, but I try to make the most of it with the kind of controlling the speed build camera and everything. But what we're doing right now is we are kind of cleaning up the channels where our resonant ender is going to be flowing. So we kind of have that green look that's kind of glowing, and we're gonna end up topping it with glass, which we'll get into that later. But for right now, we're just kind of smoothing out these channels because they need to be cut back. And I actually did chisels and bits to get kind of that wedge shape mixed with the trodden bricks that we've got there. And then I did the architecture craft wedges, of course, down through there. So we have like a smooth transition for the channels. So they match up with everything else because we can't leave them in block form and have them diagonal like that and actually look right, you know. So a bit of that, basically just taking a pattern and running down through here with chisels and bits. Nothing too elaborate. And then I would go back through with the wedges and break all these skystone bricks and all that. And it actually took quite a while to give you an idea. Like after editing, this part of the speed build was like a minute and something. But before that, it was like well over an hour that it took to do all of this, just to give you an idea, because it's just such a big surface area to work with going down through here. So just a small change like that across the entire build, it does take a bit. It does take a bit indeed. So, but yeah, so that's pretty much that. And yeah, I think we've almost brought it all the way around. I think this is may be the last segment. I don't know, but yeah, so that's where the resonant ender is going to flow, and we're going to get into kind of automating that. Not really, well, automating, being able to toss a ton of ender pearls into something, let it smelt down, and fill tanks with resonant ender, because we are in fact going to need a lot of it. So but I think once that's all said and done, it's going to look really, really cool with that fluid kind of flowing below the glass and whatnot. So right here, what we're doing is we're kind of adding some of the first detail layer that's going to go up around this. It is going to get a lot more detailed. For example, we're going to have it so that parts open up out to here. Right now, it's just a very, very much a flat kind of wall that goes up. That's not going to be true forever, but this is kind of a shell, and I got to see how the floor below it will end up shaping up before I can decide how I want to cut away. And so what we're going to do is parts of the like blood magic area, we're going to have raised sections of the room, and they'll actually step out on to kind of a balcony type section that goes over that roof there, if that makes sense. But that's something that I've kind of just got to see how we end up shaping out the room before I can say for sure where those are going to go. And then right here, I just kind of quickly finished out the railing and stuff that goes around. And then I'm finishing out the pillars, which the pillars ended up being, of course, they were architecture craft Corinthian capitals, and the bottom ones were made out of arcane stone. I believe it was Celtic arcane stone or something. And then the middle sections are poison stone, reinforced stone bricks. So from chisel, of course. And then what we got to do is we have to finish out that little layer around the arcane stone and those pillars on that second floor there. Basically just doing the same thing over, smoothing out and bringing out that sky stone. And then for this layer, I'm actually using great wood, the fancy railings around this floor, instead of keeping with the basalt. Because this section, even though technically right now they do kind of stick out from underneath the roof, they're a bit more covered, and long term they might be completely covered. I've got to see, but I'm not for sure yet, because we might add a little section that kind of sticks out over the roof a little bit more, but we'll see. And then what we have to do is finish out this top section. We gotta just kind of finish quickly building out around these where the lightning rods are going to go. It's not going to be completely done because a lot of actually what's going to be under there is piping, but we're going to make it look really cool, hopefully. Kind of like how I ran visible piping in the immersive engineering building. I kind of want to do that again, maybe to a different effect, but do that again up here. And then what we have to do is we have to cut away the tops of these like tube towers. And what we're going to do for right now is we're going to put glass over them. Though I will say that a bit later on, not this episode, because I've got to go through and I've got to figure out what style of runes I want. But you know, I've actually done runes a lot in the past, in past series and stuff like that. So what my plan is we've got 8 tubes. And if you notice on the roof, there's 8 quadrants to each layer of the roof. And so we're going to do corresponding runes that go, you know, tower and the different quadrants of the roof is kind of what I'm thinking. We're going to do some decorative runes on the top. So, and I think we're going to have 8 different ones that correspond to different quadrants, maybe different directions or whatever. Okay, that's where we got up to. And that's pretty much the shell done at this point. I will say, I mean, like I said, there's a lot we still have to do on the interior. Of course, this layer, it's all dark at the moment, but this is going to be a lot of Britannia stuff. And there's probably going to be some stuff higher up, maybe on like elevated or floating platforms, one or the other, to kind of fill out this room because it's very big, it's very open, and that's kind of intended. I want it to be kind of an open field, and I'm thinking lots of greenery, almost like a garden down here, because it's going to be very Britannia based. Lots of greenery, lots of garden feel, maybe hanging plants, stuff like that through here to kind of spruce it up. We'll figure it out once we finish out the bottom of this section. And in these tubes, what I'm thinking is we're going to have different automated setups that are kind of, you know, separated. I'm thinking maybe like a big... If you recall, last time we did Enigmatica, we had the little sections that had the pure daisies that converted for living wood and living rock. I'm thinking those, but on a larger scale. Of course, in this series, since this is pretty much like a long-term, laid-back, let's do lots of building type series, I'm thinking that type setup with the pure daisies, but on a larger scale. So maybe 2 of these tubes are dedicated to pure daisies, one producing living wood, one producing living rock, for example. And then, of course, we've got 6 other ones to fill out with whatever we so desire. Or maybe just one that's pure daisies. I've got to figure out exactly what I want to do in each of these, but... And we will have these accessible, maybe with a hidden door or something like that, so we can actually step out into these, but we shall see. So this area, very unfinished, but we will we will get to that. And then here, I'm thinking a fountain. Part of me was thinking an elevator, but I think it would be cooler with a fountain, and then use Britannia, maybe Britannia transport to reach the higher floors. Maybe kind of like float and kind of circle around this, and then come up and be deposited up into here somewhere. And then up here, of course, this room is going to be a lot of our Thaumcraft work will be here. Now, I will say this section here, once it's finished, it will kind of hang down a little bit, but we'll get into that later because, of course, there's some stuff that goes underneath the blood altar that we're going to need, so that is going to kind of hang down. And I will say that this section is going to be kind of divided off. There's going to be some, like, small room sections, I'm thinking, or maybe even open this up and have it kind of roomed, but then, like... maybe that makes sense. Kind of a wall here that separates, from this room, but then it's open to out here, and maybe have our altars viewable from the outside, something like that. We'll have to give it some time and figure out what we want to do with that. If we step out to here, this is what it looks like out here at the moment on the outside, and these are like the tops of the tubes, which of course are going to have the runes, I think, on the top of this, which are going to be done probably with chisels and bits. Sometimes I do them with architecture craft, but I think for this pack and the runes that I want, I think it's going to be better with chisels and bits, because I'm going to want 8 different ones, 8 different styles of runes that kind of go on the tops of this. And I might even put some rune work on the sides. I'm not for sure yet. Not for sure. And, of course, we've got to add gargoyles and lots of little detail work around the edges, which we'll get to that. But it's going to take a while because this is so big. And these are the channels, of course. Later on, they're going to be topped with glass. I'm probably going to put like glass sheets over the top of them. Probably with chisels and bits. That way we can really kind of shape it up to the top of this and make it all look like it fits in nicely. And then we've got to finish the underbelly and all that of this. So then heading on, let's head back in. And if we head up, this floor, there's not even a floor to it yet because I'm thinking a mixture of like an opaque block and glass, maybe, so that we can kind of see down into the lower sections, because a lot of this is being able to look down and see, all the way through this building. And so I kind of want to do some kind of a glass up here, but I've got to figure out exactly what I want, where I want it, that kind of thing. I will say that this is probably not going to be the only blood altar, because, in the past, I always like to have more than one blood altar. I like to have one for crafting, one for the blood orb, one for manual crafting kind of a thing, and one that's more auto crafting. So I don't know. We might end up having more blood altars. We might set it up so we're just using one. Not for sure yet. Not for sure yet. Honestly, I think this pack... there's not as big of a blood magic focus as, like, say, Divine Journey. So will we need more than one? I don't know. Will I make more than one? Probably. Because I always like to have one that's dedicated just to keeping up on slates. But I've got to see how many we're actually going to need. Will it be worth it? That kind of a thing. But this will be our main blood altar, if nothing else. So, and if we add additional ones, probably have them in these corners or something, kind of sticking out here. I don't know. We'll see. So, and then if we step out, this is what it looks like on this floor. Just the great wood, and it kind of overlooks, down over there on those tube. I'm just calling them tubes. They're like big tubes. And by the way, I did add slabs here, so we can just kind of step up onto these and onto these raised sections. So, but yeah, these are the pillars with poison stone and arcane stone. And then if we head up again, which, by the way, whenever I talked about opening up these walls, this is kind of what I'm talking about. Because we have these sections here that we could easily make stairs that go up to them and have this section accessible and then open up the walls here. So we'll probably end up doing that. I think I like that idea. But we'll see. We shall see. So let's head out. And this will be the sections where it would kind of step out. Maybe not like step out way above the roof or anything like that, but maybe just a balcony that's just open and comes out to here or maybe a little bit further. We shall see. We shall see. We'll kind of play around with that idea. And, of course, a lot more detail work that has to go into this to kind of make it pop. Because right now it just kind of looks like a wall section that kind of comes up. But hopefully it's going to look really good once it's all done. And then up top, we have this area, which we're going to be working up here for just a minute before we end up the episode. It's going to be a shorter episode, but that's okay. Usually our speed builds are, because they just take a massive amount of work. Because you can usually, if it's, say, like 10 minutes of speed build, then that means, in the case of this video, it's almost 10 hours of building, not to mention resource gathering and stuff. So you're looking at probably like a day of being on here working and doing stuff, and not a full 24 hours, but like a normal day spent on here. So these usually take a bit of time, but I think we got quite a bit done within this one. And then of course these are the quadrants that I was talking about. So there's 8 quadrants on this circle, 8 quadrants on this circle. So we will do some chisels and bits on the top of this and kind of make it look spiffy. I missed a piece of glass here. I think I've got some more glass somewhere that's made up, maybe. Maybe I didn't use all of it. I don't think I used all of it. It might be over in the storage building. Anyways, I'm getting sidetracked. I'll come back and fix that up. But I'm thinking up top here, we'll do some more work. It's not just going to be this like dome thing. Maybe have something that kind of wraps around it and goes up. And then we'll have our draconic energy orb up here long term. That'll kind of just be glowing up here at the top. And then chances are what we're probably going to do is do something like we do with the Astral Sorcery building and have some sky work up here. Because over in the Astral Sorcery area, of course, we have this. And this is actually just the first circle. We're going to be adding another circle here soon. I was kind of waiting until we get probably Botania flowers automated so I have infinite dyes. So I don't have to keep making this stuff, like dyeing everything. But we're going to have added circles that are kind of layered up above this lowest one. And I think we'll do some circle work on the up above this. Like up above where the energy orb, maybe starting at about right up here. And have like some circle work at about Y175. And maybe do like 3 layered circles. I don't know. We'll see. We shall see. And then if we want to look at the map, that's what it looks like on the map right now. So, quite a massive thing. If we zoom out, you can see there's the storage building. And there's this. Storage building's fairly big. This thing is just massive monstrosity. But I always like having, at least one build that's just big and lots of space to work in and stuff. And then filling it out and all that. So what we've got over here, and I made enough of all this stuff, I think, to make all 8 of them. Well, minus maybe steel fences. I think we're going to need a lot more than that. But I only made enough HV capacitors for 2 of them. And the reason being, HV capacitors are painfully expensive at the moment, actually. They're not bad making 1, but making 4 of them per lightning rod is a bit expensive. Not because of the steel, not because the MV capacitor is tearing them up, but it's because of these, the lead blocks. These add up really quick. So, because you're talking about 8 blocks of lead for each lightning rod. So I've only got enough made for 2 right now because I didn't want to burn out all the lead that I've got. But I'll try to do some mining maybe between episodes. I've got to go do some mining because I'm getting low on iron and different things. And I've got some more steel being made because this actually took a lot of steel. I was making steel during the speed build on and off, and then ended up running out again. That's why we've only have this many steel fences. But what we're going to do is we're going to be setting up some lightning rods. So let's go ahead. We're just going to kind of finish off this episode with setting up some lightning rods. And of course, first things first, we have to add steel scaffolding. And I'm going to go ahead and go around to all 8 of these. And I've got enough steel scaffolding to do all of this. And I've got enough of a lot of the stuff to do all of this. But the main thing I think I don't have right now is the HV capacitors. Just because, like I said, too much lead that it hurt. It hurt really, really bad. So, there we go. And of course, once we run the steel fences up, we're going to have those kind of come up a good ways. And then we'll have to shape the circles around that. Because it's important that our circle stuff doesn't go above the lightning rods themselves. And these are high voltage coil blocks. These are not expensive at all. They're just HV wire coil around iron. which of course, very, very cheap since we've got our press. But let's go ahead and what? Wait a second. What is... Oh, villager trades. I was like, is that like Animania or something? What is that? But we'll just go ahead and bring these up. When I first started making this stuff, it was like, well, I guess if I'm not going to make enough HV capacitors, I'll just make enough to fill that out. And then I got to looking, it's like, well, HV capacitors are the only expensive thing. If I go ahead and just fill all this out, then we can just come in, add the HV capacitors once we get them, and we'll be all set. And so next up, we need the light engineering blocks, the treated wood, and the copper coils that go above that. So let's go ahead. It was treated wood on the corners. Yeah, treated wood on the corners. And let me pop down and sleep real quick. And like I said in the speed build, the lightning rods, we're not building these so much for the power aspect of them. We're building them more so that whenever it storms, we're going to have lightning striking like up at the top of this. It's going to just kind of add a lot of atmosphere to this building whenever it storms. And it's just something kind of neat. To throw on the top of this. And actually a big thank you to Cole Bacon, who brought up setting up like Tesla coils at the top of this and doing kind of like that Frankenstein's castle to the top of it. And that's what got me thinking. It's like, oh, well, we could do lightning rods. And we might end up shaping these up a little bit as we build them up, because basically we have to build like a steel fence top that goes up a good ways and then net it at the top, which I'm thinking that we're going to net them kind of in a circle. I think that would work. I've got to see, but I think that would work if we kind of netted them so that they kind of shape like a circle at the top, not completely connecting. It might work if they connect. I don't know. I've got to test it. Lightning rods are one of those things I've used a few times in the past, but not extensively enough to know all the ins and outs. So I don't know if our netting can connect on these and if we can net like in a non-square method. But I don't know. We'll see. But Cole Bacon brought up that it would be really, really cool to... oh, I didn't make enough. No. Oh, yeah, I just made 32 and I needed 64. Okay, well, that's fine. I'll make some more of these and just finish topping these off later. That's no biggie. At least those are like the cheapest, easiest thing out of all of this to put on and to make. So, but yeah, I think I like the idea of the Tesla coils. So we might end up shaping these up somewhat like Tesla coils, but that way we've got lightning striking. I mean, it's with 8 of these, it's probably going to be striking pretty regularly during like a thunderstorm. And it's just going to make the top of this tower just feel really, really cool. Not to mention lightning rods produce a lot of power. Like during a lightning storm, I mean, it's not consistent power, but when they are producing power, they're producing a pretty substantial amount. And I think having 8 of them up top is going to be pretty nice. Okay, so now what we have to do is we have to activate this. We'll just... oh, wait, that's not one of the ones that I need to do this one over here. Just boom, there we go. And there's our lightning rod. Our very first one. And then we'll go ahead and convert this one. Boom. And you can see that this can store, what is that, 32 million IF, which I think is pretty much just like one blast. If I recall, they pretty much fill up whenever they're hit with lightning, and then you have to pump it out. Then they can, create more the next time they're hit. They actually produce a lot of power, and if you have good power transfer, then they actually make a lot of power. They can actually put out a whole lot of power. So what we're going to do is we're just going to bring these lightning rods up. I mean, technically I could bring them above the circle magic stuff. But I don't know. That's Y160. I don't know if that's... the only thing is we've got our draconic energy orb that's going to sit over here. So it's hard to say right now until I get that put in. And one thing I can do that I've done in the past is you can actually duplicate your world through like the startup, the loading menu. You can make a copy of your world, or you can do it from, through the curse folder You could just copy the world and rename it and make a new one that way. And a lot of times what I'll do, if I need to test something that I don't have the means to test yet, like in the case of this Draconic Energy Orb, what I might do is make a separate world that's our world's test world. That's basically has all of our buildings and everything like that. And we could come in, build a Draconic Energy world in a test, and build a Draconic Energy Orb in a test world, and see how we want to set this up. But I don't know. I feel like... Actually, I feel like that would probably be good, because that's going to raise it to about the midpoint of our Draconic Energy Orb, I think, would be about right here. And then that would mean that this would kind of run around the area of our Draconic Energy Orb, which I think would work out well enough. So I won't have enough steel fences to finish this out at the moment, but we can bring up a few of these to like Y160. Maybe like one more after this one. It takes a lot of steel to get these things set up, but steel's easy enough. I need to get it fully automated and like just so it's kicking out steel, but we'll get to that. That one only goes up to Y158. That's okay. That's okay. I'm out of steel. I'm tapped out right now. But yeah, I think that's going to be pretty cool once it's all done. It's just there's a lot that's going to have to go into this. A lot. So it's going to have these big lightning rods that kind of stick up. And then, of course, we'll make the netting at the top. And hopefully it works with more of a circular shaped netting. Because I would really like it to kind of just come out. And these two kind of reach for each other with the netting. Maybe connect, maybe not connect. We'll see. And... I don't know. I feel like they wouldn't be able to connect. I don't know. I'll have to test it. I'll have to test it in a test world, but and see. But at the end of the day, it's not so much for power generation as it is for like cool effect and ambience of this. And then we might kind of shape up around these so they look more like Tesla coils. We'll see. We'll see what I want to do. I don't want them to just be a straight rod like that. I want them to look a little bit cooler, so we may make them more Tesla coil-esque. We shall see. So... and our lightning rods actually stick up above that. Oh, this building is massive. It's massive. It's one of those buildings you can stand up here and it's all like, everything looks like ants down up here, from up here. So, yeah. But anyways, I know it's about wrapping up point for this episode, so I think we're going to end it out here. Next episode, we are going to be getting back into our magic, finishing out our push for the Master Infusion Crystal. So we will be doing that next episode. But I'll begin working on another speed build probably here soon. I don't know if we'll be working on this because a lot of what I need to finish this out is blocks that we have to work up to. Part of them are blood magic blocks. Part of them are forestry blocks. Part of them are Botania blocks. But I need those things before I can really push on, I think. With a lot of the build, at least getting the floors and walls and stuff laid. I could... I mean, there's little odds and ends I might be able to do. Some of it I'll do maybe on camera. Some of it I'll be doing off camera. We'll be setting up an Arcane Infusion table here soon. So we'll have to figure out where that's going to go. And where we want our jar displays to go and all that. But it's not really stuff I can spend a whole speed build type episode working on. So we shall see. So we might end up speed building a bit of this section because this needs to be worked on. I'm also going to be working on the inside of this a little bit in the upcoming days, but I don't know. We'll see. We'll see where the next speed build takes us. I need to finish out this too and these walls and start the walls on the other side. And so much to do, but that's kind of the point of this series anyways, is lots of building and stuff like that. And just being able to spend a lot of time on a pack, not feel rushed to move on to a different pack or finish a pack or whatever, and just kind of enjoy it and build on it and see where we end up, months from now. And we've had a lot of setbacks on this series with various things that have kind of set us back, but we seem to be kind of on a roll again, which is good. No internet issues or FTC issues or anything like that at this point, which is awesome. So, but anyways, I'm going to quit rambling. I hope you guys enjoyed today's build episode. That's looking so good from a distance, and once the walls are finished, I'm excited. I'm very, very excited. So, But anyways, I hope you guys enjoyed it. If you did, as always, be sure and hit that like button and go ahead and subscribe if you're not already to stay updated with when new videos come out. And I hope to see you guys next time. So until then, as always, do take care, stay safe. I'll see you guys then.